Welcome to Grave Load. I'm Anthony, and AMD has let the reviews come out of the 7950X 3D. And here's going to be a little bit of my analysis of that chip that's being released. It looks like a very interesting chip. Some things I will get into that a little bit that I like to be tweaked. There's some good performance gains to be had over the 7950 in certain games. They're like with the 5800 X3D, that also had some gains of that were very impressive. And then in some games, the 3D stack cache did not really benefit it as much. Now, it's a little bit lower TDP. Then it's 120 watts versus 170 on the 7950X versus 7950X there. So there is that little, drop. The temperatures are very crucial with these 3D chips. So that's probably part of this. And we'll see how it comes out, how reliable and everything else, and how well it schedules down the road. I don't like how they're using this currently today, where they're using the game bar in Windows to understand the scheduling part of this. There's got to be a better mechanism, and hopefully that they'll be working with Windows on this. It sounds like not only do you have to upgrade the BIOS, you have to make sure that you run the driver, the chipset drivers as well, to make sure that you have the best performance for this chip. And then there's a whole side of Windows. When is Windows going to really get this scheduled out? Windows, to me, I write software for a living, so I do Windows and Linux, and Windows Scheduler just needs a lot of work. I listened to Level 1 Techs. He did a great review. Go take a look at it on some Linux side stuff, and to really see where that is. But you're getting a percentage upgrade, I say anywhere from 5 to 15% in gaming. There's some games that don't do that. It seems to edge out the 13900K for the most part, and I'll say this chip I'd not buy if you were using it for gaming. Let's say you're doing productivity work and you also play games on the same machine. Yes, this chip is very attractive. I like to see a little bit more benchmarks in between everything else with the 13900K and the 7950X3D, really to make that decision for you when it comes down to price. I don't have prices up right now, but if you're trying to decide between the two, I think it's going to really come down to price at that point, and your specific games that you want to play and workloads, because there are some where the 13900K does edge out this chip in gaming, and it does do a very well job in productivity, the Intel chip, whereas the this 7950 X3D loses in some areas because of the two CCDs on there, one having 3D stack memory, one not, one having a higher boost, the other one not. So you kind of lose some of that full 16 core thread performance, unless it's something where you're writing in my instance, let's say you're writing code and all of a sudden it fits all in the cache. That's going to work out pretty well. I'm not dealing with usually programs that small, so that's not going to be the case for it. But that's just something, I hope that they kind of iron out. Using the game bar, you have to have game bar installed and recognizing to see if it's a game that way, and then pinging them to it almost seems like it's shutting off, from what I'm understanding from reviews, shutting off one CCD, the one without memory, to run the games. If there's a more understandable way of doing this, of being able to say, hey, this process needs more cache. Let's say it's going to memory so often. Let's put this thread into the cache area rather than not. You might get that hit, initially, of where it's trying to decide. But if you have something more, down on the hardware level, or I should say down on the OS level, I think you're going to have a much better success rate of being able to put the pieces of software where it needs to be, in those areas, on those CCDs, on the correct CCDs, rather than leaving it up to the game bar. That's just my take on there. I'm sure Linux is going to, I was trying to remember everything Wendell did. I watched quite a few reviews here in the last couple hours, trying to get this video out, seeing where it kind of is in standing. Overall, I think this is a really good processor for those that want to do productivity and gaming and have those gaming benefits. But I really think we have to wait 5 weeks. I was Hardware Unbox had some. They disabled the one CCD without 3D stack memory and just kind of made it a 7800X 3D. That looks pretty impressive, I have to say. Waiting the 5 weeks to really see where that sets up against the 13900K, especially just for gaming. Let's say you're just doing gaming. I would not look out for the 7900X3D or the 7950X3D for just gaming. I would actually go with that 7800X3D as long as all reviews once they come out look as kind of impressive as it was with just disabling the one CCD. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting in how we're going to be assessing games going forward. It looks like these 8-core chips with having all the cache on it are kind of the outliers of being really good gaming chips. And if AMD can continue with that, that's going to be impressive. Also, AMD, there is no like really overclocking stuff. So if you're a really hardcore overclocker and you like tinkering and like going into BIOS screens and everything else, that Intel chip is going to be much better off for you, right? You're going to want to go that route. But AMD, as they develop more and more of these boosting algorithms and stuff, this is where it can really take off, and that you can have that benefit of these chips boosting on their own, because the boosting algorithm has to take into account the 3D stack memory, the temperatures, and where everything is. That's going to be probably a little bit more down the road of what we're going to see, and we're not going to see as much tinkering, which is, I like to tinker every once in a while, not something I do a whole often, but it's something we're going to have to realize here as chips get more and more advanced going forward. So if this is something that guys are looking at and interested in, let me know. I actually would really like to test out a 7950X3D. I do need to upgrade my machine at some point here. Who knows? I could be saying this for the next year. Knowing me, sometimes I delay upgrades. It is what it is, right? I mean, there's only so much money that goes around to be spending stuff, but at the same time, at some point, the rig does need to get upgraded. But I use it for gaming. I use it for productivity a lot more than gaming, and so the 7950X3D is a very attractive processor for that. I was thinking about the 13900K, but at the same time, what is Intel going to do with the next motherboard scenario? Are they coming out with something here really recently, or in the next few months, or in the next, let's say, by the end of the year, that maybe makes me want to wait on that? I don't know. We'll see how this all ends up. But as somebody buying a rig for productivity, for building code, all that other stuff, that 7950X3D does look attractive. The kind of oddball out on this is that 7900X3D. I don't know where it really fits. I mean, yeah, it's slotted in price, but you got that 8-core for if you're gaming, and then for productivity, why don't you just step up for the full 8 and 8? Unless you really can't flip the money for it. I mean, we're coming into harder economic times, so maybe that's the case, but it seems like to me you might just want to jump up to that 7950X3D or go with the 7800X3D. That's what I would kind of do for that scenario. But let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know how, this economy and everything else, if you're going to jump to it, you're going to sit and wait for that 7800, or if you're just going to wait it out and see what comes next from Intel. If that doesn't look good enough, maybe from AMD. I have a Threadripper. This was originally built with a 1950X in it, and it's been working quite well, but it's starting to get long in the tooth, where you can see, especially rendering out videos, where it kind of takes a little while, and writing software too. I can make this machine hurt pretty easily as well. So those are some things. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and what you have on the assessment of this processor. It's a pretty interesting thing. I would definitely recommend it. It looks like I like to test it to get a full recommendation, but if you're looking for something in productivity and gaming, looks pretty good. It's going to come down to price for a lot of it between the Intel processors, especially for me and probably for a lot of you. But at least AMD has stepped it up to have a gaming chip to, win a lot of games and to trade blows and others with that are very close in percentages, especially over the 7950X and the 13900K. So good job for AMD to getting that out. Hopefully that they keep improving and stacking this, because I do like technology to improve over time and not just sit there. But I want to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you for taking the time to help support the channel. Like, subscribe, click the bell icon, all that fun stuff. And until next time, God bless.